But when I was in the Illinois legislature, we got Republicans and Democrats to agree to provide health insurance to people who didn't have it. We got police officers and civil rights advocates to agree to fix the death penalty system that had sent 13 innocent men to death row. I know how to bring people together to get things done. I also have the experience of taking on the special interests and winning. When I got to the United States Senate, I said, why is it lobbyists are buying meals and buying gifts and lending out corporate jets and bundling money to give to congressmen? Nobody knows what's going on. And so I worked and we passed the toughest ethics reform legislation since Watergate last year. Because we can't fix health care if the drug lobbies and the insurance lobbies are buying the agenda that they want. And by the way, the Democrats, it wasn't just the Republicans who were against some of this legislation. Some of my own colleagues pushed back against it, but we got it done because that's the only way that we're going to bring about real change. I've got the experience of standing up even when it's not popular. Like I did back in 2002 when I said this war in Iraq is a bad idea. I was in the middle of a U.S. Senate race at the time. And I was invited to an anti-war rally. And my friends and advisors, some of them said, no, you better not go. Because if you show up, and Bush was popular then. Y'all don't remember. He was at 65% in the polls. And the drums of war were beating, and they said if the war goes well, you may be throwing away your chance to win this U.S. Senate race. You may be throwing your political career down the tubes. And I said, you know what? I don't want to start my career as a United States Senator biting my tongue and not telling people what I really believe. And that, I think, is something that you deserve from the next president of the United States of America. Somebody who's willing to stand up, even when it's hard to stand up. Somebody who's willing to talk straight with the American people. Somebody who doesn't have one position one day and then another position the other day. Can't sort it out. Don't know what they stand for. One other thing that I think the next president needs is some impatience about the problems that we face. A sense of urgency. That's what I'm talking about, urgency. I don't accept that in the wealthiest nation in the history of the world, we can't provide health care to every person. 47 million people without health insurance. Millions more struggling to make ends meet. And I know something about this, personally, because my mother died of cancer when she was 53 years old. And I remember watching her in the last months of her life in a hospital bed. And she wasn't thinking about how to get well. She was reading insurance forms because she had gotten sick just as she had gotten a new job. And there was some question as to whether this was a pre-existing condition and maybe they weren't going to pay her medical bills. So I know what it's like to watch a loved one suffer. Not just because they're sick, but because of a broken healthcare system. And it's wrong. And that's the reason why as President of the United States, we are going to set up a system where everybody has health care that's at least as good as my health care as a member of Congress, because y'all are paying my salary. And we are going to put more money into prevention so you don't have kids going to the emergency room for treatable illnesses like asthma. And we're going to lower premiums for folks who are already paying for health insurance that they do have. And we're not going to wait 20 years or 10 years to get this done. We are going to get it done by the end of my first term as President of the United States of America. Because it's the right thing to do. We're not going to wait. We are not going to wait to provide every child a world-class education in this country. We can stop talking about it and let's start doing it. Don't pass a law called No Child Left Behind that leaves the money behind for No Child Left Behind. to do, if we have a sense of urgency about it, we invest in early childhood education so that every child knows their colors, their letters, and their numbers when they start school. That will carry on throughout their educational career. We need to recruit an army of new teachers as the baby boom generation retires, which means we've got to pay all our teachers more money. And give our new teachers better professional training and support. And don't just have teachers teaching to one single standardized test. Work with our teachers instead of against them to raise standards in our schools. And while we're at it, I don't know about you, but it seems to me it's about time that we make college affordable and accessible to every young person in America. Let's get the banks out of the loan business and give the money directly to students. Let's expand national service. Young people can serve, and the Peace Corps can serve as community organizers, can serve as social workers, can serve as nurses and police officers in our military and earn what they need to go to school. We can't wait any longer to change our energy policy in this country. Still sending $800 million a day to some of the most hostile nations on earth, funding both sides of the war on terrorism, and we're melting the polar ice caps in the bargain, changing the climate of the planet. You know, if we increase fuel efficiency standards on cars to 40 miles a gallon, I know some of y'all got Hummers out here, but if we increase fuel efficiency standards to 40 miles per gallon, we would save the equivalent of all the oil we import from the Persian Gulf. Imagine what that would do for our environment, for our economy, how it would lower gas prices and make it good for everybody, what it would do for our foreign policy if we weren't dependent on Middle Eastern oil. And by the way, when I made this proposal, I didn't go in front of some environmental group in California. That's easy. I went to Detroit in front of the automakers. That's hard. And I got to admit, the room got really quiet. Nobody clapped. But that's okay, because part of what you need from the next president is somebody who's not just going to tell you what they think you want to hear, somebody who's going to tell you what you need to hear, somebody who's going to tell the truth to the American people. We cannot wait as the American dreams keep slipping away from too many people, which is why we've got to make work pay for the American people. That's why you got to raise the minimum wage, not every 10 years, but every year, so it actually can support a family. That's why you've got to support unions so they can lift people into the middle class. That's why we've got to stop giving tax breaks to companies that are moving jobs overseas and invest. Give tax breaks to companies that are investing right here in the United States of America, and make sure our trade deals are working for working people right here in America. And that's why we've got to invest in creating jobs and opportunity for so many young people, a generation that's been lost in inner cities and rural communities around the country. We can put them back to work, rebuilding our infrastructure. We can put them back to work insulating homes. We can put them back to work laying broadband lines. We can put them back to work, and then they won't end up in jail. If we make that investment, and when people say, oh no, we can't afford it, all I have to say is that we are spending $10 billion a month in Iraq. If we can spend $10 billion a month in Iraq, we can spend $10 billion in Durham, North Carolina. We can spend $10 billion in Chicago, Illinois. We can spend $10 billion in Nashville, Tennessee. We can spend that money right here in America.